My next guest is going to be making his UFC debut this Saturday against Joanderson Brito at UFC Vegas 76. It's Westin Wilson back here on the program. Westin, how are you, man?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. I'm excellent. All things considered. I mean, cutting a lot of weight, but outside of that, nothing could be better.
When did you find out about the news that you were going to be in the UFC and taking this fight?
Tuesday. So last Tuesday.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we're like, yeah, just over a week since the fight and all that. Who's the first person you told? Tell me like where you were when you found out the news and all that too.
So I was I normally don't go into the office for work, but I had to go in that day and I got the news then and I was like, I'm leaving. So they were like, yeah, it's cool. You can leave. My wife and kids, they were out of town. And so like I called them, I called my parents and Coach T and Coach Vinny and Wonder Boy and all of them. Actually, Coach T was the last to find out of like our inner circle because his phone was off. And he so I actually had to call Miss T and I was like, hey, Miss T, can you get Coach T for me?
I got something important. I don't know if you're aware of this, but yeah, I'm in the UFC. Well, that's cool, man. Was this something you were expecting? The UFC typically, signs, younger guys, although you had a nice win streak coming into this. Was this a call you kind of figured was going to happen?
Yeah. So my last fight was at Tough Enough in front of Sean Shelby and them. And I felt like it was a great performance against a decent opponent. And it warranted at least consideration. So when I saw that Brito's original opponent fell through, like I really pressed hard for it. So Jason House, like, all right, we'll just, stay ready just in case. And then I think they were planning on signing somebody else that was younger and, more of a traditional prospect. But then they gave me the call on Tuesday. And so we accepted and we're not looking back.
Yeah. And, honestly, I think that's a better scenario for everyone because how many times have we seen them sign a fighter that it just isn't UFC ready? Maybe they have an undefeated record, but maybe haven't fought the opposition. I mean, you got a 16-7 record. Like that's a lot of experience. And I'm sure, we hear about UFC jitters. I'm sure for you, you've had so much experience already that this is just another step for you,
Yeah. My jitters happened Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I was stressing out about it and about, performing and, I talked to the coaches and talked to a lot of, other fighter friends of mine. And, we're good. Like we're ready to go now. All the excitement's coming in, just focusing on the weight cut, and just going to perform. The positive is nobody expects me to do anything anyways, so
you feel like you're kind of playing with house money in a way, right? Cause I don't know if you looked at the odds, he's like a big favorite and all that.
Yeah. So nobody expects anything out of me anyway. So whatever happens, like it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go out there and be carefree and have a lot of fun and show everybody, who I am.
Just last thing before we talk about the matchup itself. Did you ever think this might not happen? I mean, we've been doing interviews for years. You've been obviously, competing against tough opposition. You got a good record. Did it ever cross your mind that maybe this wasn't going to happen, an opportunity in the UFC?
It did. And there's a lot of times that that crossed my mind after like a loss or win streak or a losing streak, they would cross my mind. But then I trained with all these guys and I'm like, man, I'm just as good as these guys. Like I'm just as good. It's just, I've got to figure out what I'm missing. And I think, training with Wonder Boy and training under Coach T, like we figured out what was missing and we've been able to really go on a tear in the Southeast region. Like it was getting to the point where, no one would fight me unless they're guaranteed like $3,000, $4,000. And on the regional scene, that's just unsustainable.
Yeah.
And so anyways, there was definitely times where I had doubts, but I think last year I was like, you know what, I'm going to fight in the UFC. Like there's no stopping it.
Nice.
It's going to happen. And, it ended up happening. So.
And then you referenced it there. You do have a day job as well. For those who might not know, what do you do for work?
So I actually have two jobs. I am a product manager at a software company. And then I own my own software company as well.
There you go.
The company is all right. Oh, sorry.
There you go. No, it's good. Got to get the plug in there. I guess the reason I bring that up as well is
this one right here. That is my own company. And honestly, that was a big turning point is when I started my company. It's actually in the combat sports space. It's an event management platform. It built my network of promoters, and I was able to just say, hey, I'll do your software for free if you put me on your card. And it ended up helping me, really network myself in the sport and become more of a business minded fighter instead of just a fighter.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I was going to bring up is that, like, you have this job outside, like, some guys for the UFC, financially, this is pretty much it. Like, you have sort of that base of having the business and other opportunities where you can support your family, where it's not as like, we're talking about like the jitters and everything. Like, that's just one less thing you have to worry about, is that you have another job, right? Which is great, because I know you're not having to stress as much.
I promised my mom 10 years ago that fighting would not be my main source of income.
Yeah.
And I would never make it my main source of income. It doesn't matter how much money I make in fighting, like fighting will never be my main source of income. Because at that point, fighting is no longer a hobby. It becomes a job. And sometimes you lose the thrill and the fun of fighting when it's, your full-time gig. And the Thompsons are great. Like, people think that that's all Wonderboy does is he's a full-time fighter, but man, he's working those karate camps. He's teaching classes. Like, the being a gym owner is his full-time job. If he quit fighting, he would still, be a gym owner, and with his parents and everybody else, so fighting is just fun little perk of being a, gym owner.
Let's talk about Brito. 14-3-1 record. Stylistically, how are you looking at this fight?
I think Bill Algeo kind of set the path. I'm very similar, both build and fighting style to Bill Algeo. So we'll kind of see if I can implement the same game plan or improve upon it, or if Brito's kind of figured out those holes that Algeo exploited. So I think it'll be a good matchup. I'm excited, but Brito, hard hitter, good jiu-jitsu, looks like he's very strong. So it'll be an interesting fight. But I've made big improvements, and there's a lot of stuff that people haven't seen me do yet either. So
you sort of figured, like you said, you were keeping an eye on this matchup, sort of knew that someone was out. What type of camp have you had? Because I know you're training all the time, but it's obviously different when you have a fight scheduled, right?
Yeah. So we decided that when Steven signed for the Pereira fight, that I would just be in fight camp with him.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Workout that Steven's been doing this whole fight camp, I've been doing. So we do our strength and conditioning together. Every night we're doing our workouts together. We're hitting mitts together. We're, doing bag work together. So it's literally just been, everything Steven's done, I've done. We were getting to that point of the peak, and then we're going to start doing like the gradual weight cut. At this point is like when the gradual weight cut would happen. I didn't get that. We just went straight into the weight cut, into the hard weight cut, and didn't get that like taper, which is fine because I like only a 4-week fight camp anyways. So that's kind of what we're at. Is it would have been about a 4-week fight camp.
So I got to ask, you mentioned you're cutting weight. How's all that going? Because I'm just looking here. I think your last actual featherweight fight was in November. You had the boxing fight, which was 168, and then you had the catchweight fight, your last one. So how's all that going?
It's good, man. I can cut weight. I don't love it, but I've been doing it since I was a child, so I can cut weight. It's not a big deal. I always tell my wife, it's like I'm getting paid to diet. And that's like the real thing, and then the fight is just the reward afterwards. So that's all it is. It's just putting your body through that hell for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and then you're good to go. But it because I haven't, like, I've been really strategic about how many times I cut to 45 on the regional scene. I have so many weight cuts left in me that I don't think my body's like had that long-term effect of constantly cutting down weight. Okay.
When are you actually leaving for Vegas, or where? Because I imagine you're still home.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I was curious about that. And who's making the trip with you as far as your corner?
So I got Coach T, Coach Davini, and then we've got a kid, Gino Morelli. He wrestled for Penn State. Super, high level wrestler, high level jujitsu. I think he is also big on the jujitsu circuit, and he just made his pro debut last weekend. So yeah, he's coming out with me.
How's this fight playing out on Saturday? How's this going down?
I don't know how it's going down. I'm just shooting for a fight of the night. I would love to have my first fight be a fight of the night and just have it make a splash that way of just, balls to the walls, just high adrenaline fight that people enjoy.
Big fight in your division actually took place last weekend as well. The Ilya Topuria Josh Emmett fight. Did you happen to see it? And if so, what did you think of Ilya's performance?
So I haven't been watching fights. I just want to focus on mine. So I didn't watch any of the fights. But from what I read, I mean, he got a 10-7 in the 4th round.
Yeah. It was just an absolute war. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a really fun fight to watch.
Emmett to
big time. Yeah. No, it's granite chin. I think that's what it's made of. And then just, before we go, you mentioned Stephen Thompson. Obviously, understandable, he won't be there with you this week because of his fight coming up. But did he give you any advice or anything that he sort of told you about going into this fight? Because he's been in the UFC forever.
Yeah, he said just enjoy the process and just have fun. There's no pressure on me for this one. He said the next couple there'll probably be pressure, but this one he's like, there's no pressure. Just go have fun, go be you. And show everybody what we know that I can do.
Love it. Westin, I'm going to let you go, man. I know you got some weight to cut. You got a plane to catch tomorrow. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, or your company, the last word belongs with you, my man.
Yeah. My company, combatlabs.tv, any promotions out there looking to have a full event management platform, check it out. Other than that, obviously the whole team at Upstate Karate, they're amazing. All the coaches, all my teammates, pushing me, believing in me. So, they're my biggest, shout out. And if you want to follow me, it's at Westin Wilson, one word.